We're in the northern sector of the Bota Ranch. This is a small tributary creek that eventually runs into Sombreretillo Creek up ahead. And we're going to hike up into the brush on these terraces overlooking the creek, where one of the archaeological sites that I regularly check out is located. This one has been designated LBR-229-11. The LBR obviously denoting Bota Ranch, and the other is my cataloging system, the numbers. But let's get through the brush here. Rained earlier today, and so we need to be wary of rattlesnakes. The rain might have pushed them up out of the ground. This is the time of year when they're coming out of hibernation, so to speak. So anyway, up on this sandy terrace is where the prehistoric peoples of this area, at least a small group of them, settled or camped sometime in the past. There's evidence showing that they stayed here for a period of time. This is not one of the major campsites, but it shows a lot of activity areas. And I guess it was a good place to camp because of the creek nearby, source of water. And where there's water, there's game. Two of the necessities in life. The ground here is real nice and sandy, and when it's dry, it tends to, when it's real windy anyway, it tends to, some of the sand tends to blow away, exposing some of the artifacts. Of course, when it rains, some of the artifacts wash out. And here's a small activity area right here on this eroding terrace. You can see some lithic debris here eroding out. Getting a little bit closer here. See all these flint or chert flakes and so forth all through here eroding out. And right here, this stone stands out. Doesn't belong in this immediate area, so it was probably imported here. Take a close look at it. Sure enough, shows some signs of battering on the edges here. Right there. This is a quartzite cobble, and battering on both ends. So this was probably used as a light hammerstone. And this right here doesn't belong here either. This came from another area, and that's a flat piece of sandstone or slate. Sometimes they made these into pendants. This one doesn't have any holes drilled in it, but it's got the right form. Stream eroded. Certainly doesn't belong right here. So it was carried up in here, and just all kinds of flakes and stone tools and arrowheads, projectile points. So it's all kinds of interesting areas up in here. Interesting plants too. Take a look at this one right here. This is wolfberry. It doesn't have any berries on it right now, but has a beautiful red berry on it that's just absolutely delicious to eat. So that's called wolfberry. And of course here is tasajillo. I'm going to pass on handling too much because it's got tons of thorns and smaller thorns that you can't really see called glockids. They just make you miserable. Anyway, that's tasajillo, and it gets a red berry also, but you really can't eat it because of the glockids. If you eat it, you get those glockids stuck in your throat, you can actually suffocate. And here's a nice large crucifixion thorn bush. Has no leaves. It's a really unusual plant, and composed entirely of these green spikes. You definitely don't want to fall down into something like that. That's crucifixion thorn. And of course right now most of these mesquite trees are rather dormant, although they're starting to just get their their spring foliage. So we'll take a walk back in the site here. You can see an area right here that's been disturbed by javelinas or wild pigs, rooting up whatever it was that they're looking for. And right here you can see several guayacan plants, and note how they're trimmed down. Well, that's because they're being browsed by white-tailed deer. Otherwise these would be quite tall. They get up to 8, 10, 12 feet tall. These are all about a foot high because they've been browsed down by whitetails. And there's a really big terrace cactus right there. There's another one. I'll get back up in here. You see these little yellow wildflowers all over the place right now. Usually there's no cover up here. It's usually just bare soil, but with the winter rains we've had, there's quite a bit of weeds and little wildflowers growing up in here. And here's some more eroded terraces right here. This area right here is good for finding arrow points, a few hundred years old, pre-Spanish contact type of arrow points on these eroding terraces. The types found here generally caracara and perdiz. And I'm not really looking for any right now, but after this little bit of rainfall, certainly possible to find some. Maybe we'll come back in the next couple of days. And there's another beautiful wildflower right here. Let's see if we can get up this slope. Drenched in rain. This is a white prickly poppy, and I don't need to tell you why it's called prickly poppy, because this right here is just inundated with thorns. All these leaves right here. It's considered a nuisance plant, but it's a beautiful one. We'll get back into these terraces back here. A few star points here also. I forgot to mention that. So you got, I'd say primarily perdiz, scallern, and star be your predominant point types. But you see this series of eroding terraces here, and we'll get back in here a little bit further and see what else we come across. There's not a huge variety of plant life right here in this particular area. Seeing more of the tasajil, wolfberry, guayacan, and not a whole lot else right here. I don't see any of the other staples like cenizo, coyotillo, so forth. So got some more prickly poppy up ahead. Those are seasonal though. Those will only be during the springtime here, and you won't see them anymore. And the guayacan right up ahead of us right there has been all browsed down. That's why it's so short. You got a nice little prickly pear cactus right here. Now this, there's not too many of them right here, but of course they're all over the ranch. But right here on this particular type of soil, and in this particular part of the ranch, there's not a whole lot of them. Of course, that's a good food source there. You can cook those leaves. And anyway, we're getting back into some of these other rear terraces here, where traditionally I found older stuff back over here. The dart points, tortugas, and other types of mainly triangular dart points. I have several prickly poppies growing up on this terrace right here, and then just beyond it there's a highly eroded terrace that has a lot of debris on it from the prehistoric activities. And we'll take a little bit closer look at that. Basically everything you see here is not natural. Everything that's not dirt is not natural. Every rock, every piece of shell, etc. has been brought in by people and as a result of activity. Got eroding hearthstones from a campfire right there that are eroding out. And here's one of them, shows signs of thermal altering and breakage. Then you've got, of course, lots of lithic detritus, which result of tool-making activities. There's and the interesting thing here is the hearthstones. You have the ones composed out of chert, and then you have hearth eroding over there. It's composed, hearthstones composed out of sandstone. So you kind of have a blend of chert and sandstone being used for hearthstones. And here you have a freshwater mussel shell right next to these hearths, which are also a result of human activity back in the prehistoric period or archaic period. And this would have been a good food source. Now these mussels most likely didn't come from the creek. They most likely came from the Rio Grande, which is about a mile from here. They were carried up here and possibly cooked right here on these hearths. Anyway, so that's a little look around this, at least one little section of this particular archaeological site here at Bota Ranch. And it's a very interesting area. One of the, I would say, smaller and less concentrated campsites, but it does show lots of signs of activity.